So we're starting, and I'm not wearing a mask, not because I don't care, but because I'm very far away and I'm vaccinated. Uh, tonight's meditation, and some of you are here for the first time, tonight's meditation is a question and answer. This is my favorite kind of meditation talk because I love to talk for just the right amount of time on a topic that is important to you. So it'll probably not be something that I've never ever heard before, but a new spin on a topic. And I remember when I used to come to my Sifu's meditation classes, and he announced it was going to be a question and answer, I'd say in my mind, yes, I'm going to come up with the best question. It's going to be the most deep, philosophical, impressive question, and Sifu and all of the people watching are going to be so impressed by me. And it's kind of the opposite of what we're trying to do with meditation, which is to let the ego go, but it is the first part, which is discovery of the ego. So when you're coming up with your question, don't try to make it super impressive. Do try to make it something that connects to what is important to you that you're dealing with. Do try to make it something that is concise and to the point. So I don't need the whole background story of everything, but a little bit is okay, and try to keep it clean. Hello, Beatrice. So the questions should not be about technique. It can be about meditation technique, or it can be about technique that is, something about not martial arts technique. It's a breathing technique or a technique for how to forgive somebody or something like that. But something that is personal, something that is going to affect your most deep self. Questions. And if you're watching at home, you can also type them to me. You can also raise your hand if you're on Zoom. I see one from Frida. Go ahead.
Hi, Sifu. So I work for myself. I'm self-employed, and I have clients that I work with on a daily basis who really rely on me. And I often find myself suffering from something called imposter syndrome, because I feel like everything I tell them, they don't question, and they really, really rely on my knowledge, and they value my opinion. But I sometimes think I'm unworthy. How do I deal with imposter syndrome?
This is great. I love this question. I've heard it only a couple of times. If you don't know the feeling that Frida is talking about, you almost certainly will at some point. I'll tell you what helped me the most, Frida. I have a friend who's also a Black Sash under Sifu Brown, my teacher, who is and at least a couple of you are going to really connect with this example. He's a neurosurgeon, and when he graduated from medical school and started practicing as a neurosurgeon, he told me nobody knows what they're doing. That we're drilling holes in people's heads and like hoping that the evil spirits come out. It's like nobody really knows what's going to happen. Now we study and we have a reasonable idea of what's going to happen, but at the end of the day, it's like it's at best like an educated guess. And I will tell you that did not give me all kinds of confidence in ever needing to have brain surgery, but it did help me because I've suffered from imposter syndrome, just like anybody who's experienced what you're talking about. When you're like in a position where people listen to you and they take what you say, and at least in the moment they seem to really believe you, you start to question yourself, like, should these people be trusting me that much? Like, should I mean, I'm sure there are people who know way more than me, and that's certainly true. And my friend would never say that he's the best neurosurgeon of all time, but he would also probably say that he's not the worst. And I'm sure that you're not the worst at what you do, Frida. But this is where we kind of get into the problem is when we're comparing ourselves to other people. We start to think like, surely there's somebody smarter and better than me that this person could be listening to. And that's true. There's also somebody worse they could be listening to, but that doesn't really get us where we want to go. I love to say, I didn't give this disclaimer today, but I'll give it to you now. Normally, when I do the question and answer meditation talk, I tell you that the answers that I give are not the answers. These answers were not written in stone. You know, this is not the gospel. This is just what I've got from my experience, which is not insubstantial, but not perfect and complete. So when I tell you something, you know that it's going to be a really decent answer. And I promise you, if you ask me again 10 years from now, I'll give you a much better answer. And if anybody is pretending to have the total truth, and that is what some people do, that you know that is the person not to listen to, because everything that I say and everything that any teacher says, and even if you're giving advice to somebody in whatever capacity you have, professionally, personally, whatever, is the finger pointing to the moon, right? And as Bruce Lee said, and other people before him, if you are looking at the finger, then you're missing all that heavenly glory. The finger is not the thing. The moon is the thing. And when I teach, I'm trying to point you in the direction of the moon. You can take my experience, you can take my advice, but I am not the truth. My finger is not the truth. What I say is not like the perfect truth. It's just going in that direction. So one thing that I found that helps is to know that for myself and to explain it from time to time to people, right? That gets rid of the imposter syndrome for the most part, because now I'm not expecting what I say to be perfect, neither is anybody else. Now that's different from being like overly self-deprecating and really lacking the confidence that you should have. And I think that, again, reminding yourself that even neurosurgeons don't know what they're doing can be helpful. Reminding yourself that you're never pretending to be the whole truth and the whole enchilada. There's more out there, and that's wonderful. If you are going out and telling people that what you're saying and what you know is the whole truth and there's nothing beyond it, you should have imposter syndrome because you're an imposter. But anything short of that, you're good. Just enjoy it and accept. The last thing I'll say is we do have to be able to accept when people think that we're great. A very common thing I've dealt with in the past is like, I would hate to be late for something. And when somebody explained it to me this way, I went like, oh, obviously, you're afraid to be late because you think that you're not worth waiting for. You think that the people who are sitting there waiting are just going to get up and leave, or that they like don't really care enough about you being there to wait for them. They care enough about you. They're going to still be there when you show up, usually, and you are worth waiting for, and you're worth listening to whatever extent you are talking and being truthful. It's great. Other question, Joy.
I don't know if this question's about it, but I'd like to know how you discovered martial art and how you discovered that that's part of your identity, and I'll explain why I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I treat this son to give everything.
Yeah. Surely you don't want your son to be too much like me. Just a little. This is a great question. It's definitely allowed. You can ask me anything you want as long as it doesn't have like swear words in it, and I'll be totally clear. If it's not a question that I'm going to answer, I'll tell you I'm not going to answer that. But I first discovered martial arts because my parents thought this kid needs help. I was not paying attention in school. I was the quintessential, just like goofing off in the corner kid. I needed stimulation. And so my parents took me to a Taekwondo class, forced me to do it for 2 years. I hated it pretty much the entire time, and I quit. that was not my discovery of martial arts. Really, that was somebody else kind of pushing it on me. And the truth is that if I had found that same practice years later, I might have had a totally different experience, but I was just not really in the right place for it. So for your purposes in raising a child, be weary of this. And this is something that I worry about so much because I want nothing more than my child and my children to just love martial arts and someday to teach martial arts in this dojo. But if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be, and I'm not going to force it. So you will get to this point sooner than you hope, where your children will start rebelling against everything that you say, which is a totally natural thing. So whatever you try to force them into, they're going to do the opposite of it. That was kind of me. But when I started martial arts for myself, I was 17 years old, just about to graduate high school, and I had friends who were doing martial arts, and these were people who I really respected and loved, and they were telling me about the great things that they got out of it. So I think that if you are trying to introduce martial arts or something else that's important to you, to somebody who you love and care about, then just be a great example and just talk about how much you love it and really share how much you are getting out of it. That's all that they did. And I showed up, and of course it was as you guys have experienced with what we do here. It is an awesome, fulfilling practice with so much to it and so much to sink your teeth into, that I loved it instantly. And I knew within a year that I wanted to do this for the rest of my life, that I wanted to teach martial arts and all that. But something you said is very interesting and striking. I was actually having this conversation with somebody just this afternoon about making martial arts part of your identity. And this is where you're going to kind of flip a switch and things will start to become very easy for you in some way. Martial arts and meditation and the difficult things in life will never be totally easy, and we should never want them to be totally easy. But you'll stop struggling with the questions of, like, should I go to class or should I stay home? Should I really try to meditate or should I just be lazy for the rest of my life? As soon as you really allow yourself to identify as a martial artist, and this could go for anything, as soon as you identify with a higher self, with a higher purpose, with a bigger version of yourself, you start to act in that way. You start to live more effortlessly in that way. So I'm a huge fan of basically rolling my whole life into my martial arts practice, right? I don't think of myself as Ryan, right? If somebody calls me Ryan, I get confused most of the time. I think of myself as Sifu. I think of myself as a martial artist, which has me kind of up on a higher bar for myself. And then it's never a question of, am I going to show up? Am I going to meditate? Am I going to do my best? No, because that's what a martial artist does. And when you identify as that higher self, then the actions will start to flow through you. And this is kind of the idea behind setting the intention, the challenge of the week this week, setting your intention the night before, and then you wake up the next day, you look at that thing, and the best thing to do is to meditate, get yourself into a really high state, write your intentions for the next day or for the rest of your life. Write a huge check that you know that you've got to wake up the next day and cash or have the money for in your bank account. You've got to be able to fulfill this promise that you made when you were at your highest self. And when you can really start to do that naturally, life is vastly different. So I know I just threw a bunch of stuff at you, but when you're talking about doing this for somebody else and helping somebody to love something that you love, just be a great example and invite them to see what it's doing for you. Be excited about it. And forcing is very different from that. As far as making it your identity, you want to, be careful with trying to emulate any one single person, exactly, because you are yourself, as you should be, and our children and our students and all that, everyone is their own self. But we can look at an aspect of somebody that we really want to identify with And for me, looking at my Sifu, there was definitely a big part of it that was like, I want to be just like him. But my Sifu is a multi-dimensional person, and I would never say that I want to have every single thing be exactly like him, because that would be bizarre. But you know, the martial artist and the Sifu-ness was something that I really loved, and I thought, I want that for myself. I want to be that for other people. So, you know, find the aspects of what you see out there in the world, and identify with those things. Really make it a deep part of you that then you can pull from easily without having to make it feel like it's forced. Other question. Wait, somebody typed something to me. Nope, that was from a different class. Tanya. Pieces Every Step is a great book by Thich Nhat Hanh. That's how you say that name, Thich Nhat Hanh. Come here, bring this book over here so I can show it to people too. Well, I'm pronouncing, how do you say it correctly, actually? No, go ahead, come here, say it. You actually speak. All right, fine. Anyway, that's how I pronounce it. It's not Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh. So this is this book. And we have several books, I think, in the dojo by Thich Nhat Hanh. This is a wonderful one, and I highly recommend it. You want me to just read this part? Well, come here and find it, and then. I remember the gist of it. Okay, you want me to read it? Okay. So I'll just read this first part of it at least. This section is called, you just want me to read this and then speak on it, speak on the idea? Anything in particular about it? I'll throw it back to you at the end and we'll see. So it's called The Dandelion Has My Smile. If a child smiles, if an adult smiles, that is very important. If in our daily lives we can smile, we can be peaceful and happy. Not only we, but everyone will profit from it. If we really know how to live, what better way to start the day than with a smile? Our smile affirms our awareness and determination to live in peace and joy. The source of a true smile is an awakened mind. And you have all had somebody, at least once in your life, give you that smile, that truly warm, genuine smile that just bubbles up, and it's like you cannot help but smile back at this person. That's an incredible thing. How can you remember to smile when you wake up? You might hang a reminder, such as a branch, a leaf, a painting, or some inspiring words. I sometimes just put a sticky note somewhere in your window or from the ceiling above your bed so that you notice it when you wake up. Once you develop the practice of smiling, you may not need a reminder. You will smile as soon as you hear a bird singing or see the sunlight streaming through the window. Smiling helps you approach the day with gentleness and understanding. When I see someone smile, I know immediately that he or she is dwelling in awareness. This half smile, how many artists have labored to bring it to the lips of countless statues and paintings? This is he says that later on. I'm sure that the same smile must have been on the faces of the sculptors and painters as they worked. Can you imagine an angry painter giving birth to such a smile? Mona Lisa's smile is light, just a hint of a smile. Yet even a smile like that is enough to relax all the muscles in our face, to banish all worries and fatigue. A tiny bud of a smile on our lips nourishes awareness and calms us miraculously. It returns us to the peace we thought we had lost. Our smile will bring happiness to us and those around us. Even if we spend a lot of money on gifts for everyone in our family, nothing we buy could give them as much happiness as the gift of our awareness, our smile. And this precious gift costs nothing. At the end of a retreat in California, a friend wrote this poem. I have lost my smile, but don't worry, the dandelion has it. If you have lost your smile and yet are still capable of seeing that a dandelion is keeping it for you, the situation is not too bad. You still have enough mindfulness to see that the smile is there. You need only to breathe consciously 1 or 2 times and you will recover your smile. The dandelion is one member of your community of friends that is there quite faithful, keeping your smile for you. In fact, everything around you is keeping your smile for you. You don't need to feel isolated. You only have to open yourself to the support that is all around you and in you. Like the friend who saw that her smile was being kept by the dandelion, you can breathe in awareness and your smile will return. So what was it specifically that you were thinking of or wondering about with this? Mm-hmm. Yes, if you didn't smile when you read this or when I read it, then something wrong with you. The losing of a smile is never permanent. If you have lost your smile, it is a common experience that people then start to get very anxious about it or feel a certain way, like I've lost it. I'm not, not my happy old self. And when things in our lives happen, we start to then point to these things. And if I'm not smiling now, I think like it's because of this thing and it's permanent and I'm never going to smile again. We've got to remind ourselves and remember that this too shall pass. Whatever it is that we're dealing with that is causing us to not smile right now, it will someday be gone. And as will we ourselves and the planet and the whole universe at some point will be gone. So we may as well just enjoy this moment to the best of our ability and smile. I think that this concept of remembering that the dandelion has your smile or anything around us has our smile, the people that we meet throughout our day has our smile is great. It's not that it stole it from us, it's that it's holding on to it for us. And when you come up on somebody or you just walk through the world and you see a tree or a dog or a rock on the ground, you can remind yourself that has your smile. It's been holding on to it for you and you can just take it with you. Smile is an incredibly powerful thing. And yet it has to be an incredibly light thing. If we are not smiling or we're not in, the right mood and we make that a big deal and we start to hold on to that feeling and we make it bigger than it needs to be, that is when, the ego is getting involved. And that is when we are starting to be attached. So when you're not smiling, you should be able to be unattached to that feeling of not smilingness. And as soon as the next thing shows up, it reminds you of your smile and you can bring it right back. The main reason I think that anybody doesn't smile for any length of time is because we get wrapped up in the ego and attachment to some kind of feeling. We think that the situation that we're in is permanent. We take ourselves so seriously. We take whatever's going on in our lives so seriously. And of course, there are things that need to be taken seriously and things that we need to take action on. But as I alluded to this morning, and I butchered it then and I'll butcher it now, but this is, I believe, an old samurai maxim, things of great importance should be treated lightly and things of little importance should be treated with as if they had great importance. Yeah, that was just as bad as this morning. The idea here is not that we should take little annoyances or little things that happen to us and make a mountain out of a molehill, as it were. It is more like the things that we are so sure are so important, the things that we get anxiety about, the things that we hold on to and ruminate about and just go over and over and over in our heads about, are not that important. We should treat them lightly. And the things that we just gloss over, like a dandelion growing up through the sidewalk, we should treat that with great importance, because it's these little moments that have our smile. It's these little moments that will allow us to fully experience life And this is really what this idea is all about. We hardly ever experience life. We experience what goes on in our head. We experience our thoughts about life. We experience our emotional state. We experience our attachments. And what we really want to be able to do is let those things go and just be in the present. And then from the present, then we can branch out and really be however we want to be. We can be that highest self. We can be that thing that we want to identify as. So this too shall pass. You don't have your smile now. It's just because something else has it, and you can just get it back like that in an instant. And also, don't feel pressure to smile. It's not like you have to smile all day long every day, because that is just too much pressure on yourself. Smile when you feel like smiling, and then you'll smile more often than you think, most likely. Okay, so that's enough for tonight. If you have other questions, ask me in another class. Remember, you don't have to wait until a meditation class to ask me meditation questions. I really recommend and encourage you to ask me in any class. But we are going to sit and meditate now. And somebody was asking me in an earlier class today about how do you deal with loneliness. It's similar enough to what I was just talking about. A feeling of loneliness, a feeling of whatever is there. It serves a purpose. The feeling serves a purpose. The feeling, of course, is on some level like an end in and of itself. But if we have a feeling, it's meant to draw our attention to something. And sometimes the feeling is something that we should allow ourselves to feel for quite a long time. Usually, people in my experience, we kind of get sucked into feelings and have them for a little bit too long. Well past the point of usefulness, well past the point where they drew our attention to something, and then we're just stuck. So a feeling is great. Allow yourself to feel it for as long as you need to feel it, and then let it go and be in the present. Meditation helps us with this. Meditation is about recognizing the thought. Now, feeling comes from thought usually. Sometimes a feeling is just a physical sensation that then we label as, oh, that feeling is loneliness, or that feeling is, I'm hungry, I need to eat something now. And this is a problem that a lot of people get into, is they mislabel loneliness as hunger and they eat themselves through it. But we can recognize that all of these things, they serve a purpose for a moment, and then we want to be able to let it go. Meditation is the practice of recognizing a thought, hopefully before it becomes a feeling and really takes over. We recognize it, and then we let it go. If it's something that is really sticking and you need to deal with it, I promise you, it will come back after your meditation is done. If something comes into your mind that you think this is so important, I cannot let it go, you're kidding yourself. It's not that important, and if it is, it'll come right back when your meditation is done. So just let it go. And when we practice doing this, we are practicing. We are studying our minds. We're recognizing thoughts as soon as they come up, and we are able to deal with them in the proper time. Meditation, the kind of meditation that we do, a sitting, breathing meditation, is not the proper time to deal with whatever that thought is. It's the time to deal with the sensation of the breath. It's the time to experience what is beyond the darkness of closed eyes. It's the time to experience your highest self. And if you find yourself getting dragged back into an ego state, if you find yourself getting dragged into an emotional state, you can experience it, but then just let it go and be totally present and make this breath, this seemingly insignificant, seemingly unimportant thing, this breath, should become for us the most important thing that has ever existed. And in that moment when this breath is our whole universe and our whole life, then there's no room for the other anxieties, there's no room for the other distractions. All there is pure consciousness, pure highest self, and that will fill us up naturally. Sit comfortably.